Hello and welcome. My name is Svetlana Stone. You are watching Artist Voices, where we believe it's essential for artist voices to be heard. And we are pleased to have Gorman to talk about what does it take to be a musician or artist in the 21st century. Thank you for being with us. Ian, thank you so much for finding your time and come to share about your work, about your experience. Could you please tell us a little bit about you and how you get to Kalamazoo?
Sure. I grew up around the suburbs of Detroit. I started playing music in middle school, playing guitar and bass and that kind of thing, and like rock bands and that sort of stuff. Music was always really prevalent in my house. My dad was a DJ in Detroit in the late 60s and early 70s. My mom was an artist, so our house was always very creative and supportive of that kind of thing. Started recording myself as a teenager on a cassette 4-track at that time and that kind of thing. And came to Kalamazoo to go to Western in 96. Still trying to figure out what I wanted to do. Wasn't sure yet. And in my experimenting and kind of trying out different stuff, I found John Compos's recording classes at Western, which is now the MAT program or part of the MAT program, and totally changed my trajectory. I became very interested in engineering and production, and I've been hanging out in the studio ever since.
So, and could you tell our viewers who don't know that about your studio? So you have studio, and the name is La Luna.
Yep. Yeah, it's La Luna Recording and Sound here in Kalamazoo. We're an 1,800 square foot facility with both analog and digital recording and a wonderful staff of engineers that work there. Lots of different stuff going on, really exciting, and love it very much, very proud of it.
And when did you start this studio?
Well,
how long you already?
Yeah, I really started it. I started my own home studio back in 2002. Before that, I worked at a bunch of other studios as an assistant and then staff engineer and that kind of thing. And in 2002, I opened up my own home studio. And in the last 21 years, it's grown and grown and grown from a spare room in my apartment to 2 spare rooms to a whole floor of a duplex, eventually to a extravagantly renovated garage behind my house. And then in 2018, I opened up our current location in the Jericho area of the Edison neighborhood. And this location is about 5 years old, but it's really a 20-year evolution.
And you're working with local artists, maybe not local also, like on a daily basis. Could you tell us approximately how many musicians you are working and maybe on a daily basis, and what did you learn from them?
Wow. I learn from everybody all the time. That's the goal. I am trying to always grow and increase my toolbox as an audio engineer, if you will. And there's something to learn from everybody. How many musicians are recording there? Well, geez, I don't know. There's me and 3 other staff engineers. We're very busy. I would say at any point there's probably roughly 30 to 40 projects going on at the studio.
Wow.
That we're juggling. Some are just there for a couple hours and they're gone. Some people are working on projects over the course of multiple years. It's always different what we're doing and that kind of thing. Roughly speaking, I didn't keep very good track of the projects that I was involved in earlier in my career. It was all kind of just madness. But roughly speaking, I've worked on over 1,000 albums at this point.
Wow. Mm-hmm. So speaking about the artists and musicians, though everyone can contact from, it doesn't matter what state,
we work with people from all over. Obviously, a lot from Kalamazoo and Michigan in general, but we get people working from all over the place. More experienced bands will travel to record and really, pick the studio that they really want to be at, and book a week or 2 weeks or whatever and just camp out there. And so people will travel sometimes. And then also as a positive side effect of the pandemic, dare I say, we've developed a really nice virtual system where we can mix and master with people online, live, and collaborate together and that kind of thing. So that's opened up a lot more possibilities for us to work with people from all over. It's wild. So I work with people I never even meet sometimes. They just send me files and I do my thing and send them back. And, so you never know. There's all kinds of ways to put it together these days.
That's amazing. So people don't have to even come to your studio. If they have already recorded file, then just collaborate you through online and send you,
Yep.
and you can help them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And like I said, ask you earlier, what did you maybe learn about musicians? What challenges they are facing, and why is that?
Yeah, well, I mean,
If you notice something.
being a professional musician has always been a difficult path in a career sense. It's an incredibly fulfilling career path, and for those that are obsessively passionate about music, it's kind of just a natural thing to spend your life doing. But it's always been very difficult in terms of a career and the business side of it and all of that. And it's gotten more so over the last couple decades as streaming has become the main format that people are learning or listening to music through. And people are selling way less physical albums like they used to. It's even harder to be a recording musician and that kind of thing. It's an ever-changing world, and musicians have to be versatile and adaptive, and also a lot of it is the struggle of getting heard in a highly competitive and oversaturated field and that kind of thing. But for those of us that just have it in our bones to do this, it's the only thing that we can do. So in an emotional and kind of mental sense. And so I find musicians do it more because they have to than because it's a sensible career choice. But that being said, I love working in the music business, and to me it's the greatest thing in the world, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
And obviously they appreciate, I know I work with you, I really appreciate what you're doing for the community, and besides that you're very passionate and talented, you're very professional, and your studio is an amazing place to record artist work. And what would you recommend for artists who try to record their music? It's their first time, they don't know what they should start, and they heard about your studio. What would be the steps they can do?
Do you mean like how can they prepare themselves to
prepare
record?
themselves, everything, and what they need to start with, and even like to connect to your studio? What would be the steps for the like brand new musician who never done recording? What would be the initial steps?
Sure. Well, in terms of preparing themselves, obviously rehearsing your song or songs with your musicians as well as possible, working out the arrangements, having at least a good plan together for that kind of thing is super helpful. But that being said, being open to, not being too married to a specific plan when you get into the studio can be a good thing, like not over planning. Sometimes I work with musicians that have no plan at all, and that can be kind of chaos and a little bit counterproductive. On the other hand, sometimes if musicians come in and they have over-planned, okay, from 6:10 to 6:15, we're going to do take one, and 6:15 to 6:20, we're going to do take two. It doesn't work like that. You have to be open and go with the flow and, prepare for the unexpected and that kind of thing. So being prepared, but also being open to the changes and the way things go in the studio. Sometimes you think something's going to be easy and it ends up taking a long time. Other times you think something's going to be difficult and it happens very quickly. In terms of preparing, also I would say to talk with your audio engineer or producer to get an idea of how long things are going to take. One of the most common things that we find are musicians really underestimating how long things take in the studio.
That's a good point.
Yeah, and expecting to come in and have things go much quicker than they usually go. And so it's very common for us in our pre-production talks with artists to be like, well, you're actually going to need more time than that and that kind of thing. And getting a plan together with someone that's very experienced at it can be really beneficial. It always takes longer than you think, and working with your engineer or producer to get a plan together can be really helpful. In terms of the nuts and bolts of contacting us or any studio, it's very easy to do. You can email us, message us on Facebook or Instagram. There's all kinds of ways to find us, and just start that conversation about putting together a plan for your project.
And then that's how the communication begin. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. These days people are communicating in all kinds of ways, and the flexibility of that is great. Whether it's email or text or what. And, the most important thing is to, instead of coming up with a plan yourself, reach out to the engineer and discuss a plan with them and find something that is creation with everybody involved is something that's going to work the best for everybody.
So working with with musicians and see all those challenges, what challenges are you facing as an engineer? Like in order to to collaborate with musicians or provide for them the services.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, every project is different. Recording is not a one-size-fits-all situation, and every artist that I work with has different methods and approaches that work for them, and every project has different methods and approaches that work for it. And so, the more open that we can be to using our toolbox of techniques and experiences and figuring out, mixing and matching with that project and seeing what works for that is always the greatest approach, I think. In other words, walking with preconceived notions, this band should record this way, that's best. Like, well, no, you need to, adapt to what they're doing and figure out what works best for them and that kind of thing. For instance, some artists I work with record best when everybody is together playing live and that kind of energy and in the moment thing. And other people really perform their best when they are just recording one instrument at a time and really focusing on the details. And there's no right or wrong. One way isn't better than the other. It's a matter of what is going to serve that musician and that song and that performance the best. That's an always changing thing. So approaching every project with a curiosity of what's going to work for that, I find is way better than approaching it with preconceived notions about what's going to work best.
Do you think is a great idea for the musicians to learn about how they're recording, what is involved in order to make their project more successful?
Absolutely. I love it when musicians learn some things about the technical side of the studio because it empowers themselves to better get what they want in the studio. That being said, I work with musicians that have no interest in that side of it and they just want to perform, and that's great. We can do that too. But, if you're really serious about recording and getting, albums or singles or whatever you're working on that really capture your vision the best and that kind of thing, learning some about what it's like for the engineer can really help yourself through the process. And like I say, empower you to understand what's going on better and get what you want better.
And speak about of that, I know that your studio provide workshops, I don't know, so that like every week or every 2 other weeks. Can you tell us more about this and how people can sign up for that?
Yeah, well, it's sporadic, and right now we only have one on the schedule at the moment. It fluctuates depending on how busy we are, and it's the kind of thing that we do when we can. But yes, we have a series of workshops that we'll offer here and there. Right now, the one that we are doing is, I'm trying to remember the date. It is part of the Sounds of the Zoo Festival. And let me find the date here so the good people listening to this can find it. It is Tuesday, September 26th. I'm doing a workshop in a survival guide, a gigging musician's survival guide to live sound. It's a bit of a
Wow.
bit of a mouthful for the title, but the idea is it is like just like what we're talking about. It's basics of live sound and PA equipment for musicians that are gigging, not necessarily to train them as engineers, but more to inform them about live sound equipment and techniques so that they can be more comfortable with that and perform better, whether it's running their own sound or working with sound people and that kind of thing. So it's part of the Sounds of the Zoo Festival, and it'll be happening at our studio in late September. Besides that, we also offer private lessons in audio, and those are available anytime, and you can
Wow,
contact us.
That's awesome. And
Yeah.
how people can find you? Your website,
Yep.
Instagram?
Yep, we're at lalunarecording.com. We're on Instagram and Facebook. We're easy to find.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for sharing with our audience about you and about your great business. We appreciate that you were able to come and share with us. Thank you so much, Ian.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Well, this concludes this episode edition of Artist Voices. And we are thank Ian for coming and sharing with us about his experience here at Public Media Network, where we believe it's essential for artist voices to be heard. Thank you for being with us and have a great time. Until next time.